And we're live? We're live! Hi everyone! My name is Albina. I'm the Community Manager at Block 71 Singapore. Block 71 is the ecosystem builder, global connector that aggregates a startup community here in Singapore and over the world. We provide market growth and access opportunities into overseas market. And today we are here at Carro headquarters with their CEO and co-founder Aaron Tan. Aaron,
yes.
Maybe you tell them about yourself first. But wait, before that, if you have questions for Aaron, put them in this link here below, and he will answer it, or he might not answer it. Or if you have no questions, you can look at the questions on Pigeonhole and vote for the one you really want us or him to answer. So, Aaron, everyone wants to know, what do you do?
What do you do? I am basically the founder of Carro. I don't call myself CEO anymore nowadays because honestly, I do not run the company. We have very capable people, much more capable than myself, running the business, ranging from in Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. In fact, we are present across 3 countries, soon to be 4 countries now, and we have almost 400 people worldwide. Basically, what we do is we call ourselves the largest wholesale marketplace for cars, right? So we buy and sell cars, and we trade vehicles across the world, largely on a wholesale basis. And then as a result of owning the wholesale marketplace, we actually verticalize and whatever not. So, but my role really is one of a connector. I fundraise for the business, and I largely go around with the HR management part of stuff. But otherwise, I do not, unfortunately, run the business on a day-to-day basis, contrary to popular beliefs. I think some of the people would think that, as CEO, you're actually running the business. But the truth of the matter is that I actually do not get too deeply involved on a day-to-day basis. In fact, every single country has its own set of CEOs. But otherwise, I don't normally call myself CEOs. I'm just a slacker, if you may. I always say that. Even to my board, I just hang out. Right. So, but my job as a founder of the company, really at this stage, given that the company is now Series C, is really to make sure that the company operates smoothly, and for that matter, we continue to attract the right investors and right profile and stuff like that. Yeah, but broadly, that's what we do here at Carro.
Cool. So, but you founded the company, yeah?
That's right.
And you chose the automotive industry. Was it more of a pain point thing, or was it more of like a business decision thing? I know because you are ex-VC, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of both. So generally, when I first started the business, given my formal or informal VC training, I tend to think of this as the most important thing is always the market size, right? Mm-hmm. So, needless to say, as I set up this business, one of the many few things that I decided that, hey, the first few things we need to go into is to go into problems or verticals that has large addressable space, right? Well, in the VC world, we call that TAM, SAM, right? So segment addressable market, so to speak. And not that many verticals would check the box, and properties or cars or automotive for that matter would clearly check that. And so that's one of the many reasons. But even for myself, I generally like cars, like properties. So I always think of this as a problem that I want to really solve. All right. Basically, where do I find good quality cars at a low price? And ultimately at the end of the day, after I buy the car, how do I sell it at a good price? And in between, how do I actually make money off that? And I actually enjoy flipping, buying cars, selling cars, and stuff like that. So for me, it's less a problem versus like this is a hobby, and it's something I really like doing and enjoy doing. And then at the same time, if it's something that I can make it a job, why not, right? So in that sense, it's that way versus like, you know what, I think that this is a major problem and I want to solve it, and that's the reason why I'm starting a company. Not that altruistic in that sense.
Understand. Yeah. So do you have a game plan after deciding this industry? What was your game plan then? Did it change from when you first started?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a company, the truth of the matter is that you can plan what you want, but when you start a business, that my ex-boss likes to say this, right? Starting a company, it's not like a single line from A to Z. It's not like a line that you just draw, right? And it's a straight line. No, it doesn't work this way. It's an A to Z. Yes, the end in mind, which is either to sell, IPO, or whatever the company, right? But in between, for you to get to that end in mind, it's not a straight line. It's always going to be a zigzag. Sometimes a U-turn. Sometimes whatever. You go back down to A and then go back up. Yeah. So generically, long and short of this is that the company has changed. When we first started, we were basically positioning ourselves as a C2C company, right? So i.e. buying and selling directly. But since just 2 months ago, we decided to pretty much shut off the entire line of the business, right? Primarily because of non-performance in the product line itself, right? And as a result, move towards where we excel in mostly in the wholesale, and then I guess broadly in the financing standpoint. And that really is how we think about the business over the last few months and whatever not. But that has changed a lot, right? Since we started back in 2015. But yeah, has the business changed? Yeah, it changed a lot. But I must say that the core thesis remains the same, right? So which is, how do we challenge the incumbent? How do we rethink about car ownership? How do we automate? How do we make the whole industry more transparent? I think the broad thesis, the mission, the vision still remains the same. But to say that the company's outcome was exactly what we planned was probably not possible. Yeah.
By saying that, do you mean that your mission changed, or the mission is still the same?
No, the mission is still the same. What I meant is that the outcome, or rather the way we tackle the problem, was significantly different, so to speak. Yeah. But it's just that the mission and whatnot largely stays the same, right? Which is, again, how do we challenge incumbent? How do we change car ownership? How do we actually provide more transparency in the market and stuff like that. Yeah.
So from what I understand of Carro business, you are now mainly focusing on B2B, but you just launched the car subscription business. So you're going back to B2C.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really think of ourselves as focusing on only B2B or B2C, because the truth of the matter is many sections of our group touches the consumer, right? So for instance, when we take cars and sell cars to the dealers, the truth of the matter is a good source of supply comes from consumer.
Yeah. So
C to B in that sense, but that's still the C's, right? And at the same time, we have our own workshops that touches the consumers. We have our own multi-finance business that also touches the consumer, thousands of accounts for the end consumers as well. So we don't think of our business as B2B only. Truth of the matter is B2B to C or B2B or C to B. It doesn't really matter, right? But the car subscription business, which we just launched, I think less than 10 days ago, has been quite exciting, because the response, within a weekend or so, we had over 1,000 leads. And people indicating basically that they want to be on the wait list, so that they can be one of the first to try on this the subscription service that we have been offering. But generically, I don't look at it this way as like, we were in B2B, now we're in B2C, stuff like that. But we have always been touching the end consumers.
Okay, understand. So you mentioned about changing how car ownership. So millennials also are less possessive of the cars. They don't view ownership of cars as important as we used to.
That's right.
To see it. So how do you think will affect Carro in the future, or like in 10 years?
Yeah. No, and that's exactly the reason why we decided to move on with the subscription business, right? So we actually haven't had a proper marketing name. In fact, over lunch we're just talking about what is the brand going to be called and stuff like that. But the long and short of this is, exactly the millennials, the expats, this group and pockets, and increasingly so more and more people who are basically saying, I'm not interested in owning a property, so they go co-living. And they're not interested in owning a car, so how do we subscribe for a car, right? Or for that matter, I do not want to buy any DVDs, right? I do not want to subscribe. I buy any Zhou Jielun CDs, right? Yeah. So I go to iTunes, Spotify, and stuff like that. So that movement has increasingly certain, right? And we think that will probably spill over to that for the automotive industry, right? And so that's exactly the movement that we are seeing, and that's why we launched this service, so that we can move towards capturing more of this market of people who actually want and love to have access to a vehicle, but actually do not currently want to own a vehicle, right, so to speak. And that's how we feel that with this new business line, we are actually trying to future-proof the business, right? And for that matter, trying to rethink how people think about the ownership of cars, how all this at the end of the day will fit in nicely to our grand plan. Okay.
Just one question for me before we head to the pigeonhole questions. I just came to my mind. So there's this car rental service thing called Smooth. So you book a car and then you use it for a few hours, then you return it to whichever spot you need to return it. Why do you think that isn't like working out as well as how is it different from your car subscription service? Are the people, the target audience different? Are they the same, or what is it?
No, I look at those as more car rental businesses, and it's to say that they're not doing very well. I actually don't know, because the truth of the matter is I have not really spoken to them, and I think it's really the truth of the matter is we look at it differently, right? So one is a rental business, right, and one is really ownership business, right? So the truth is you have access to it. The geographic of customers is very different. I give you an example. So someone that's in between families, right, will probably prefer to buy or think about subscribing to a car. This going for like a Smooth of sorts, right, where it's a rental business and stuff, because his usage of a vehicle is high, like maybe more than 7 days or whatever not in a month. So if it's past 10 days or so, it typically actually makes no sense to rent a vehicle. You might as well just go and lease, subscribe, or for that matter, buy a vehicle itself. And so to answer your question directly, it's basically a very different subset of business or subset of customers. I think generically, the millennials would slant towards owning, or not owning, but having access but not necessarily owning the thing, right? More like a subscription service, vis-a-vis having a rental, like, oh, you know what, $70 a day, $80 a day, and whatever not. So they prefer to do it as like, they can call something that they own, and for that matter, they are able to change as and when they want, right? Like, you know what, I'm sick of I'm driving this MPV for a while, or you know, my mom is in town, so I bring her around with a nice car, or you know, next week I'm going for a date, I prefer to drive a convertible. So things like this, right? So being able to swap within your package or group, and for that matter, being able to do this on a no commitment basis and on actually very low down payment, if you may. There's no down payment, sorry, deposits, right? Like it's just 1 month of the car value itself. It speaks a lot. And I guess more importantly, the maintenance, the fact that you know you do not have to worry about maintenance, road tax, right, insurance, all these things are taken care of by us as a platform, makes it a lot more compelling even for people like expats, people in between family, or even the millennials, right? So very different customer segments.
Agreed.
We don't think about this rental company.
Okay, so you're simplifying car ownership, and you're also making options a convenient thing for people.
That's right.
Yeah. So the most voted questions we have is by an anonymous person. Okay, so it says, if you're to be rated on Glassdoor as CEO, what do you think your employees would say of you as a boss?
Yeah. So I think, to me, Glassdoor is a company that I'm trying to understand how they actually get around, because the truth of the matter is they make money from companies subscribing.
Okay.
Right. So I've always wondered, this is the best blackmailing company in the world, because what they do is that they will come to you after your employees or whoever, or could be a competitor, posting something negative about the company, and then asking you that, hey, do you want to take it down, or do you want to comment about this? Oh, if you want to do this, by the way, you subscribe to this, right?
Yeah.
So which we never do. And so for ourselves, Glassdoor as a platform, we do not actually go and read it, but I generically think that reviews are reviews, right? So it's either good or bad.
Yes.
Right. So I generally think that it's probably bad or good. So there's only a 5 or 1 kind of stuff, I'll pick the score as 3. So it's going to be average.
Okay.
So that's how I generally think about Glassdoor as a platform.
But what about you as a boss? How would you say you are as a boss? Like an Asian, I don't know, startup founder. What are the traits that you carry? How do you treat employees?
I generally honestly would say that, I mean, depending on whether they're my direct reports and whatever not, right? So I don't really have that many direct reports. I have about 8 of them. Okay. Generally, I hope that the 8 direct reports would think that I'm an okay boss. I don't really drive them that much. So you can see, I'm the only one in this room. They're not here. So I think I would say that the word is aggressive, right? So I'll be very blunt, and at the same time I'll be at their neck at work, right? So but otherwise, work is work, play is play. So I generally think that if it is playtime, I'm happy to go out with the team and relax and stuff, whatever not. But if it's work time, we have to be very serious and professional about it. So I think professionally aggressive is probably the way I think about life here. Yeah.
So do you draw a line between work time and playtime? As in, do you is there you stop texting them after 10 o'clock, or does that still happen?
No, it will continue. When 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., they're quite used to it, right? So, but generally, I have a very standard sleeping pattern, right? At least in my past life, I'm a lot worse, but nowadays, I tend to sleep by 10, 11 o'clock, and then by 6, I'm typically up, and then sometimes 5:30, they will start receiving emails and stuff like that, so they're used to it.
5:30 a.m.?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I mean, and you know what? People will respond, right? At 5:30, they know that those people are genuinely working.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, the next one is by this lady called Janice Tan. So are VCs still funding non-tech entrepreneurs, or has the winds moved onto deep tech? What should I look out for when doing my own due diligence about investors? Yeah,
so generically, I think the question is a few parts to this, right? The first part is, do VCs still invest in non-tech, right? So I generally see lesser. I mean, it really depends on what you mean by tech. Is medical tech, right? Tech, or for that matter, semicon tech, or is tech, like web companies tech. So I generically think venture funds specifically, for most not all, but for most of the venture funds, they tend to focus on tech companies, right? So these are like your Golden Gate Ventures, your Alpha BWC, your Insignia, your Sequoias of the world, Vertex. They typically invest in companies like this. But is it to say that they do not invest in traditional businesses? The answer is no, right? Because I do know a couple of them, even the funds like Sequoia and whatnot, they actually do invest in traditional companies, right? So do VCs invest in non-tech companies? The answer is yes, but rare and far and few in between. You have to show the superiority in your product, in your business model, in your team, and for them to get excited. Because the general issue about backing a company like a standard retail business and not so much a tech business is the issue of scale, right? So the companies may be afraid of, or the venture funds may be afraid of the fact that the company is hard to scale, right? And so as a result, they do not deal with it, right? So I think generically part one of the question is, do they still invest? Yes, they do, right?
Yes.
But it's far and few in between, I agree, and it's tough to find one of them. But they do exist, and typically the family offices are probably more in line with that kind of businesses, right? Be it restaurants, be it, like, I don't know, salons and stuff like that. Second part of the question being high-tech investments and whatnot. Do I think that anyone, I mean, it really depends. There's a lot of context on this. So it depends. The answer is, should you join a high-tech, or should you start a high-tech company and stuff like that? I think it depends on how you define high tech, right? I really have it really depends on context. But if asking someone that's consulting or marketing or sales background, and then asking them, hey, let's go and start a semicon company, which in my opinion is deep tech, I think that's suicidal, right? So I think generally it really depends. So the second part of the question, I do not know how to answer saying unless it really depends on what Genesis circumstances is.
Understand. So I know that you also do some form of investments yourself. So what kind of companies do you tend to invest in? Yeah,
this is the fourth time I have this question today. I kid you not. I mean, there's a friend of mine called Arnold, and then he used to be, I don't know whether he's still firing startups, but he did this thing called the map of money or something like that.
Yeah.
He literally just texted me asking me the exact same question, and two other people before that was asking me this same question about, what do I invest in and stuff like that. I think I always say this. Number one, I always invest in entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Right. The most important thing is the entrepreneurs. The best entrepreneurs will always be able to navigate a thunderstorm. Right. So number one thing we always do is invest in entrepreneurs. Number two thing we always do is to invest in verticals or space that we actually feel has potential.
Yeah.
Right. So in my opinion, 3-4 years ago when I invested in financial societies, right? So for instance, there's a fintech company, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's one, right? And I love Henry Shopback and stuff like that. So that's another one. Star Theory, because I believe in subscription business itself, right? So Chris Halim and all these are my earliest seed investments, right?
Yeah.
And a bunch of them. But generically, I invest in space that I feel has potential.
Yeah.
Large addressable markets, very very important. If you go after a small opportunity, it's not going to be interesting for any venture funds, right? And I guess more importantly, really, is the founders, right? So large TAM, good space, good founders, and ideally, honestly, if you have good outcomes in the United States or in China, I think that is even better. Yeah.
But how do you know if the founders is good? I mean, they can be like one person in front of you and another person behind you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you really cannot tell. All I can say is that the good thing was somebody else paid for my tuition fees.
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, I should not say my previous fund that I worked with for like almost 10 years ago now. Yeah. So I think it takes a bit of experience.
Yeah.
Right. So having done this for more than 8 or 9 years now in my life, I hope that at least if there's anything I learned is to call bullshit quite quickly.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So I think it's not easy, but it's something that you develop over time, right? Especially having been an operator for about 20 years in my life now, I more or less can tell whether or not an entrepreneur is serious, whether he's decent, whether or not his integrity is okay. I mean, to be honest, I've invested in so many companies in my life. I never had a miss today. Okay. Right? Never had a miss, at least on a read on the person's character. Yeah.
So integrity is really a big thing for you because I mean I've spoken to you before and you've mentioned this many times already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you has anyone I don't know, how do you say this, went back on you before, or why is integrity such an important trait for you?
I mean, integrity basically, at least in business, is important, right? Or at least in investment in that sense is probably one of the most important things that we look out for, which is whether the founder himself has integrity, there's honesty, and for that matter, he has grit, right? So, but integrity ranks above all, because at the end of the day, you can have the best founder, from Ivy League schools and whatever not, but this guy has zero integrity. You can be very sure that his business will not last long, right? Because you're not going to be the only guy that questions this, right? You are not going to be the last guy for sure, right? And for that matter, what happens is that he will struggle to find or take his business off the ground, right? And I guess to me, more importantly, is like I can't deal with people like this, right? So if people who has integrity issues, or people who likes to go back on their words and stuff like that, you can do it once, you can do it twice, but the third time it's just very hard to work with someone like this. So, and I'm typically quite hands-on. So after I invest, I typically will help, ranging everywhere from hiring down to fundraising to tech stuff and things like that. So if I can't stand working with that person, then it's not even about the person's character. It's just that if I can't trust this guy, right, to not basically do things behind my back, or basically not being honest about his numbers and stuff like that, then how am I ever going to work with him, right? So I will never partner with someone like this.
Understand. Okay, so if you were to build your next tech startup, right, what would you build?
I actually don't know, but I actually love the property space, so I will do something in property.
Okay.
Right.
Have you like look into tiny homes or anything like that?
So I looked at this company, which is not a unicorn now, but it's what's that company called? Open Door. Right, you might have heard of it, but it's basically a very interesting. I think it's super cool, but it's probably tough to do in Singapore because of certain stamp duty stuff. But I think as a ownership, because at some point I was looking to buy properties and stuff like that. I mean, last year, right, I was still in the market looking for a house, and I found it incredibly tough. It's like quite hard to find the right house, and for that matter, it's too costly. In my opinion, for instance, in Singapore, it makes no sense to buy a condominium. Like, it's just too expensive.
I understand.
You probably bought some yourself.
No.
And then, but generically, I will do something in the property space, and something more similar to what Open Door does, which I love their business model, right? So, in short, what they do is that they buy property, and then they will allow you access, or even not, if they don't buy, they work with the property companies and allow you 24/7 access to the house.
Okay.
Right? So if you think about it, the truth of the matter is, why do you need a property agent, right? When you buy a property, right? Because half the time, no offense, but most of the property agents, not all, do not know what they're doing. So when you're inside there looking at the property, they don't really add too much value beyond that stress, right? So I would love to just go and visit the house myself, right?
Yeah.
And for that matter, offer to buy when I need to back at my house and stuff like that. And 24/7, I don't have to go and make an appointment with this guy and say 5 o'clock. Oh no, can you come at 6 instead? Because I have a 5 o'clock appointment. Because this is 24/7. Anytime you want, just go in, press the button, and the door will unlock, and you can go and view. Right?
So it's not like a smart lock company.
It is not a smart lock company. They use existing off-the-shelf solutions.
Okay.
But basically, they position themselves more like a next generation property brokerage. Yeah. You don't really need agents. The person can self-serve, and then at the end of the day, they pay less commissions.
Of course. Okay, got it. Understand. Yeah, you really like the car and the property market. Okay, so what's our next question? Next one I already asked you. So yeah, maybe the last question I'll ask from Pigeonhole is by this guy called Samuel. What are some of the worst problems with the Singapore market for automobiles?
Yeah. There are a lot of problems. I mean, generically, you have everything ranging from, I was just again with a dealer yesterday, and I mean, of course, one of the many issues is the integrity of the cars itself, right? So if we're talking about the car trade, buying and selling cars, one of the many fears that we have is selling cars that have mileage, that has its mileage tempered, right? Yeah. And we try not to deal with those kinds of cars. And even in Singapore, squeaky clean, right? We still have issues like this, and that's not something that we can honestly avoid that easily, right? So that's one part of it. I think generically the pricing is more or less transparent. It's all on the classifieds and whatever now, so people can actually look for it quite easily. So I think pricing is not so much of an issue. I think also generally the dealers have conducted themselves fairly well, right? So increasingly we see lesser need of that. But I generically feel that from a consumer standpoint, it's still very hard for them to sell cars, right? Yeah. For a good price, and that's why we have Carro Express, and we still have it, and generally to take in cars so that we can try to sell it for the end consumer faster for a better price, right? So I think that's generally problem number one. Problem number two then is buying And problem number 3 is access to financing to finance it, right? So I think one of the many issues that consumers face as well when they buy vehicles is that they have to put the 40% or 30% down payment. I think that's quite challenging for some people.
Yeah.
Right. But otherwise, I think that the whole car trade itself in Singapore is actually pretty efficient, right? What's more interesting is when we go into the emerging markets like Indonesia and Thailand, and that needs a lot more help in terms of tech and a lot more things that we can try to resolve, right? And those things are a lot more interesting as a market to enter. Yeah.
So interestingly, you talk about Thailand and Indonesia, right? Yeah. So were there any challenges when you entered both markets? Did you enter at the same time or different time?
So we entered Thailand first theoretically because we started there with a dev house, right? A dev team of engineers there. But really, as a market entry, Indonesia was first, and then Thailand was second. And in both countries now, we transact well over 2,000 plus cars a month, right?
Yeah.
So making us the largest by far versus any of the local competitors. So the way we think about life in Indonesia and Thailand is that it's a very different market. The strategy is very different from Singapore, which is squeaky clean and we don't have much issues at all with fraud and stuff like that. But executing in Indonesia and Thailand is really different, right? So and as a Singaporean going in there, you are thrown issues that you will never think of, right? So everything ranging from fraud. And it could be internal fraud, not necessarily external fraud, right? To the fact that what we call the BPKB in Indonesia, the title deed of a car. In Singapore, by the way, it's electronic, right? In the US, like in Indonesia, it's actually a physical piece of paper, right? Which again can be counterfeit, right? So stuff like that.
I think it's the same for land in Indonesia also. They go by this.
I'm not surprised. Paper. So there's a title deed, right? So but again in Singapore we did away with that like 10 years ago, right? So it is different in that sense. So what I'm trying to say is that in those markets, you have issues and challenges that you don't really see or appreciate as a Singaporean growing up, right? So, like for instance, the car can be flooded. In Singapore, rarely, we do get flooded cars, but rare. In Indonesia, it's actually quite common, especially in Thailand, because of the rainy seasons and stuff like that. Or you have things like, for instance, agents trying to bribe some people in between and stuff like that. There's all kinds of issues. Or for that matter, you have things like when you hire people, they are very the work ethics is not what you're used to. Right. So culturally, there's a bit of a mismatch, right? So all in all, it has been very different operating in Indonesia and Thailand versus in places like Singapore. But I think Indonesia and Thailand shares much more similarities. And then, but places like Vietnam and Singapore shares more similarities, arguably so. So generally is very different, but we have been able to do well there primarily because when we are in markets in both countries specifically, we tend to go with the local guys. So the local champions, who are the local CEOs, takes care of their own people and make sure that they're happy and stuff and whatnot. So they know what to do, right? When they deal with the Thais or the Indonesian, we just basically help enable the tech part stuff.
I understand. But so my question was, but so for Thailand and also Indonesia, there's like this whole language barrier. Wasn't it easier to just go into Malaysia first?
Yes and no, right? Because if I go into Malaysia first, the venture funds will think I'm trying to be cute. Simple as that. The truth of the matter is, if you look at market size, right? Because the venture funds are simple creatures, right?
Okay.
Which is the largest market? Thailand. Which is the largest growing market? Indonesia.
Okay.
Right? And then, if you look into all those parameters, Malaysia is nowhere to be found, right? It's going to be number 4 or 5, right? So naturally, it's not going to be the market to go in first. Singapore, in this case, is homeland, and honestly, it's a bigger market than even Malaysia. If you look at the used car market itself, right? Primarily because our car value here is about 4 or 5 times larger on average, so which makes the market, even though 400,000 used cars in Malaysia annually, even Singapore at 100,000 cars is still a slightly bigger market.
I understand. And I also know it's called aftermarket. Okay.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. So, okay, I have just last 2 questions for you. Last question, second last question. What is one question that you always wish someone asked you but never did?
This question. I never thought about, why would someone I never once asked myself that question, so no.
Okay.
So this must be the first question then.
So is there one question then that you really wish someone wouldn't ask you but they did?
Not as well. I generally am quite open to I mean, of course, I generally frown. But it has been asked before many times. Like the reporters, especially, they love to dig about you. right? So everything ranging from are you married, how many kids you have, where do you stay, oh by the way which street exactly do you stay, oh your house, how many levels are there, right? And down to I think things that are super private I'll prefer not to answer, right? But I think generically the reporters I mean the news reporters, like the real reporters are the ones that ask such questions. So I generically they will also know, right? So they will ask and I'll say, oh sorry, 270 but not answer, stuff like that. So they will know what to do. But I wouldn't think that these are questions that I feel that, you know, I think that they shouldn't ask or whatnot. I think it's fine. But I would just tell them, say sorry, I just don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I would just say that.
So you're open about your business life but private about your personal life. In
Yeah.
other words, right?
Generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question is very cliche, very common, and because I'm from Block 21 and we have a whole startup community, is what are your last words to aspiring entrepreneurs? So any advice to them? Stuff like that.
I always tell people, like especially if the target demographics in this case is an and a group of aspiring entrepreneurs, my take is always at the end of the day, if you don't try, you don't know, right? So I always say just go and try it, right? If anything at all, this whole journey at all, you would learn something out of it, right? Be it even if your company fails, be it if it go on and raise serious amount of money and stuff like that, there's something good that comes out of it. So my general advice is always try, right? So I always tell people at the end of the day is that I'd rather try than to die not trying, right? So that to me is always the most important thing if you are trying to be or aspiring to be an entrepreneur. It's like, we're worried about my job, I'm worried about the fact that my kids are like 1 year old, and then if I come out and start something, I'm gonna have money to pay and stuff like that. But I think you should try to do it, especially if you're young, and especially if your kids are still relatively young as well, so that I think early 30s and stuff like that. But of course, once you're past 40, 50 years old, those statistically recently, one of the venture funds told me, said that, you know what, if you are a 40 or 50-year-old founder, statistically you have a higher hit rate, right? So I mean basically you have a higher chance of doing better as a venture-backed company. Statistically, I was told. You can ask Vickers about this day. It was Dr. Finian who said that. And yeah, so but I generically think that at the end of the day, if you can start a company early, it's always good. It serves you well over a long run.
But how many times can a person try? Like some people just keep trying and then they keep failing and then nothing happens.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Like this founder, I can't remember his name now, but he's the founder of this company called Pinduoduo, right? Which is one of the largest, marketplace in China, right? Recently IPO'd and tens of billions of dollars in terms of valuation. And this guy, he's unique in the fact that he's a third time founder. Third time, right? So if you read about him, you realize that this guy has tried once, has tried twice, and then the venture funds by the time it's third time, it's like, what do you have this time, right? It's like, and all prior to companies were all venture-backed companies, right? Yeah. So he failed fast and he failed quickly. And even Pinduoduo itself, right? If you asked him, the account was basically, he thought that would fail, right? But that quickly turned and stuff like that. So the truth of the matter is, you don't really fail, right? So you learn, and then there's no such thing as like, how many times should you fail to learn? But I think at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself and give yourself certain kind of criteria and say, this is where I stop, right? And say that, for instance, if you're like 28 years old, right? And then you know that, 33 years old is probably where you want to stop, because by then if you don't have anything, you have to go and form a family, blah, 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 right?
You don't have to, but okay, it's a life choice.
You don't have to, but it's a life choice, right? Some people just want to do that. So that's where you and I personally would do something like this and say that, okay, by this age, if I don't make it, I think I'll call it quits, right? So that's something that you have at the end of the day. The issue is that you have people who are like gamblers, right? So they are like, let's roll the dice again and stuff like that. But this is something that is easier said than done. You just, once you're in that mode of doing something and then you're so close to achieving something and then yet you don't get it, like gambling, then you're like, let's do it again. So sometimes some people will never call it quits, but some people are very clear-headed. They know that, I lost my $100 in principle, I'll stop, right? But not everyone like this. So I think generally the advice cannot be applied for everybody, but I think generally is how I do it.
Okay, I'm going to end on this question. So what's the greatest lesson that you have ever learned?
The greatest lessons, I mean, I've learned a lot of lessons in my life, right? A lot older than all of you here, but I think as part of Carro, the one of the many things that I always take at heart is, as we started the business, we basically went out and say, C2C, we have to go and kill the dealers, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And that honestly, on hindsight, was a very bad idea, right? Because you go out and then that basically made the incumbent very worried, wary about you, right? And then more importantly, you stuck off with a bad note on the whole market, right? So generically, if I turn back time and then or lesson that I learned really in business is that you do not actually go out and position yourself to challenge or try to kill the incumbent, right? In fact, you try to think about how you want to value add to the ecosystem, how do you want to be part of the ecosystem, and for that matter, how do you want to contribute to the ecosystem to be better as a group, and for that matter, then how do you then benefit from it, right? So that's how I think about life today. So internally, I always hate it when they always say, "Oh, let's disrupt this," or in PR, the PR agency will suggest usage of words like revolutionize, disrupt, right, and change and stuff like that. I say, look, let's tone that down a little bit. We are not here to disrupt anybody. We are here to coexist and really contribute and value add to our end users, right? And that's what we want to do. So we go out, we shout about our value prop. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as long as we stand by our value proposition, we actually know what the hell we're doing, and actually deliver value, both in product, customer service, or anything, you will be rewarded, right, with the market.
So with that, thank you so much, Aaron. It was really insightful and really nice. With that, we end our first installment of Kopi Chat Dabao. Sorry, I didn't explain what Kopi Chat Dabao is, but Kopi Chat Dabao, this is our first one. It's our way to take our Kopi Chats online so the world can have access to it. Yes, and today we are very lucky to have Aaron, CEO and co-founder of Carro with us. So thank you for tuning in, appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Oh, also, if you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button somewhere in this space. Where is it? Somewhere in this space, and then, also let us know which is the next tech entrepreneur that you would like us to feature. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.